This week on The Handle. Learn about the tie between an Amarillo home and a classic Hollywood movie. Then meet an Amarillo chef who battled her way back into the kitchen after a medical crisis. And Amarillo women crafting kindness for the homeless. All of this right now on Panhandle PBS as we tell the stories of the Texas Panhandle.
How can you be friends with someone for 25 years and not know that not only were they kind of a star, where Tony had a past B-movie career and was spokesperson on TV for almost 10 years, but the house is kind of a movie star in itself. I'm Leslie Cunningham, and I'm a realtor here in town. And this was my friend Tony Klein's home, and she lived in it, I think, well over 40 years. We're at the corner on Parker, 2813 South Parker. At this point, her children have the estate, and we're getting it ready to sell. I became fascinated with the house because of finding the articles of Mr. Blandings builds his dream home. It's like, what? Think about it. It's 1946, 1947. We've just come out of the war. And think about Amarillo with the base here and Pantex. And we've come out of the war. Things have been rationed. Things have, been scarce. And so they've all made movies that were kind of really war-oriented. So this movie comes out with Cary Grant and Myrna Loyd. It's the third movie they've made together. And they've been big, big hits. So RKO banks on this one, puts $10 million up for publicity on this Mr. Blandings.
Mr. Blandings builds his dream house. Direct from the pages of the best-selling novel comes the laugh and love riot of the year.
They put $10 million for a promotion for this one film. And what they did is they went across the country and sent out plans to 100 cities to have these houses built. They sent it to the Amarillo Builders Association, and I don't know from then how they decided who would get to do the building. And this is one of 73 that actually were completed. So here they come to Amarillo, and we can go back and look, but I imagine that there were traces of the old dairy still here, and this whole area really wasn't developed. This was on the edge, and it was part of a playa lake. And so they come put this house, that's a dream house that they're doing with GE appliances, and in there the whole house is going to be modern. Ready Kilowatt, they did a lot of advertisements with them. So the whole idea was to build this dream home, and Emerson Seal started this dream home to show, that we're going to go into a point of prosperity, I think. And that, we've won World War II, and let's do something grand. And they're still in business today, and do a lot of, under every house is still some Emerson Seal product. If you read back into when the builders talking about, and everybody had to chip in. So GE did not pay for this house. And so I think it was through the generosity of a lot of the community the house got built. When they had it finished, they actually charged 50 cents to allow people to come through, and I believe they donated that. Most of this house on the front end remains the same. The entry is small to today's standards. It goes straight upstairs and has a laundry room behind it. Having a laundry room was a big deal. And and in this part of especially in this part of Wolfland, not having it in your garage is nice. And the room we're sitting in, with the open bay window, they built it with lots of closets. They built the grand fireplace here, a grand dining room, and then a pass-through even on the kitchen, which is kind of interesting. And back when it was originally built, it had a single-car garage. And upstairs were all 3 bedrooms, and what's fascinating is to have a master suite that's en suite, but the other 2 rooms were en suite also with a full baths. I've always enjoyed history, but thanks to my friends at American Title, Land and Title, we pulled the title on this and got to go back and see all the people that lived here. And you just think about all the memories, and we'll go in homes, and in the attic spaces will be where kids wrote, and people leave that. So there's always a trace of our heritage and who we were. And I love that personally. I love the old neighborhoods. I like when we keep things intact. I understand, that someone's going to want to modernize this, but I appreciate where we came from To know that this house had a history, and as we see things changing, the next owner may not keep all this history, but I'm glad that you're here to capture it.
West Texas Chef's Table has partnered with Panhandle PBS for a dinner series we call Savor the Goods. With each meal, the local chefs highlighted ingredients grown or raised in our area. So next, meet Jessica Higgins, chef and owner of Girasol Cafe and Bakery. She has quite a story to tell.
I suffered a heart attack at age 41. My name is Jessica Higgins. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, born and raised, Texas proud. I am currently in Amarillo, Texas with Girasol Cafe and Bakery. Did I say hi?
No.
Okay.
You're okay without the hi.
Y'all are gonna have so much fun editing this. If you love it, you're gonna make it work however you're gonna make it work. We were very, very close to opening. We were about 2 months behind here at the cafe, and there was a lot going on. I went to bed one night and I woke up pretty hysterical, which is very rare. But I was like, wow, my heart's racing. And then I kind of, wow, my arm hurts. Wow, I can feel the air hitting my teeth. What's going? Hey, these sound like symptoms of a heart attack. Maybe I should take some aspirin. If I'm thinking about taking aspirin, maybe I'm having a heart attack. And I've been doing really well since then. When I first opened, I couldn't do a catering. I'd get too stressed. When I first opened, I couldn't watch The Walking Dead because I'd get too stressed. In my family, we've had a lot of cooks, a lot of practice, and a lot of family preparations and meals. And I equate cooking with families. So it's kind of a nice thing to start off so young and knowing that it's part of a good culture to grow up in, and then be here today kind of doing the same thing and welcoming people into my new little cafe family. Grammy was a cook. My first official recipe was no-bake cookies. I still knock them out of the park. And then from there, I really did have a passion for baking as a child until I failed horribly. And so I went to more like savory goods and like cooking meats, and alcoholic beverages somehow worked their way into there. I was a great bartender by like age 9. I went to school and I couldn't find. I was a chemistry major and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this forever. I switched to political science and debates, and I was like, I was a great arguer, but I was like, do I want to do this for my life? Is this my dream or my passion? And it wasn't. And then I heard about this program called Hotel, Restaurant, and Tourism Management. I thought that sounds kind of like something I could enjoy. I have to hear it and say it and see how it sounds together. I know flavors are going to work together. I know what's going to happen there with what I know. But does it roll off the tongue? Do people going to want to go, that sounds amazing. The one thing I've learned about food that doesn't change, it's hard work. It doesn't matter where you are, how you're getting it. It's hard work. Anything about growing it, getting it to a table, anything about receiving it and getting it to a table of customers, the whole process. And you think of, actually that's a really good question to kind of ponder. How many people are involved in food in this nation? When you talk about middlemen, retailers, warehouses, and the growers, yeah, food is hard work. I know that when I'm here visiting with my customers, and I'm busting tables one day, and they're like, oh, and they make this like food sound, and you're going, are you okay? Yes, it's just so amazing. That's honestly really inspiring. So I guess pleasing the customers is kind of the ultimate drive, but for me, it's like a more personal. It's not just like they're a customer. They're my customer. They're my friend, and they're coming to my little home away from home here.
Jessica's dinner featured produce from Green Wolf Vertical Farm in Panhandle. The backyard garden planted by Mari Seleska has grown to supply ingredients to many restaurants across the Amarillo area.
My sister calls me the mad scientist because I'm always experimenting with something, with flavors, with different varieties of tomatoes, with different varieties of lettuces, microgreens. I make my own mixes. I'm Mari Seleska from Panhandle, Texas. I'm the owner of Green Wolf Vertical Farm, and we grow a variety of produce and microgreens. I come back to tomatoes because that's a classic. When you buy it at the grocery store and take it home, it's just kind of meh. It's a tomato. When you pull it off the vine and you bite into that, and the juice runs down your face, and it's this tomato flavor that makes you think about your grandmother, you know, your grandmother's garden. That is perfection. I worked in sales and marketing in Arlington, Texas. 4 years ago, I moved up here to take care of my dad after my mother passed and began trying to garden. It failed miserably. It was one of the worst summers of the Panhandle and everything died. So I began trying to find a way of producing enough food for our family, my extended family, and then it grew to providing for the local community. We started out at the Canyon Farmers Market, and it just kind of exploded from there. I've made a lot of friends, did a lot of educating on locally grown produce, on microgreens, the nutritional value of the microgreens, that they're not just cutesy stuff that the chef sprinkles on top of your food. They actually have a distinct flavor. They actually have a nutritional value to them, and you can eat less and get more nutrition than if you were eating the grown produce. And I do a lot of consulting with the chefs and their menus, and we talk about what their new menu is going to be and what they want. Do they want an accent? Do they want something that gives it a pop? And I go out and I start hunting.
Jessica also introduced us to Tom Wilson and the farm fresh eggs and honey at McSee Farms at Valle de Oro. As you'll hear, we interviewed Tom among his feathered friends.
I love my farm. I love the smell of especially this morning with the rain. I love the sound of the animals. I love the fact that we can be out of eggs and walk out here and get us a bunch of eggs and have an egg meal. And there is nothing better than an egg that is just laid. Nothing. Well, maybe something, but we basically just started raising baby chicks. And then as we'd raise up so many hens, then we'd sell the hens to the backyard people. And I told my wife, I said, if we had 500 hens, we'd have sold 500 hens this last year. So the next year we had 500 hens. And then the next year I said, I think if we'd had 1,000, we could have sold 1,000 hens this year. And so then, sure enough, the next year we had 1,000. Each chicken, we've clocked them, and if we're not in extreme temperatures, either up or down, we can generally get 6 eggs a week out of each chicken. We're at the farmers market downtown every Saturday, and we sell raw honey and we sell eggs. We have ducks, we have peacocks, we raise guineas, we raise quail. We try to raise everything that has feathers. So I really enjoy raising babies. Hatching baby quail that are no bigger than a quarter and watching them grow up into this and laying eggs, or hatching chickens or ducklings. Oh, they're the cutest things. We have cows out here, and baby cows are so pretty. And I imagine the prettiest animal is a baby pig. When a baby pig is baby, they're just cuddly. Of course, they stink too bad to cuddle them, but they are the cutest animal that is born on a farm.
Talking to all the different vendors that I found through this dinner, I was blown away just with the variety. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I had to really kind of delve it down. I was like, I can't do everything in the world because July is a prime month for things to ripen up. But it's like, I can't do corn and tomatoes. And I was really trying to figure out how I could do it to create a nice meal with available products, but not overwhelm everybody with just too much stuff. And I can have this plate that was all blah, and they'd be like, oh, okay. People are just coming in and just trying things because the chefs are kind of pushing a scene. But we're also reacting to our customers. We're not that limited. Surprisingly, we have a very wide array of products that are available and locally grown right here, and to get out there and utilize them. These guys are small and they're farmers, and they have the potential to grow, and if they're supported, there's no telling what could happen. It can bring in more farmers and more variety. And I think the fact that people are growing mushrooms in Amarillo, Texas is amazing. I think we've got quite an influx of people and chefs just coming to town. I think being here, people are traveling. They see the movement. They know farm fresh. They know farm to table. It's something they've heard of, and they're wondering why the heck it isn't here. I'm coming from a different area where there's a huge river running through the middle of town, and produce and local farm to table, it's just known there. Oh, it's farm to table. But here in the plains of Texas, to have a farm to table and have a variety of the things that we're going to be able to have now, it's awesome.
It's easy to feel like I'm just one person and what can I really do to help? But every little thing you do does help. My name is Melanie Eggleston and this is Jenny Archer, and the name of our group is Human Kindness Stitching for the Community.
Melanie had contacted me because she had read an article about a woman in another city that had started a group like this, and we kind of started as thinking we were going to be a 2-person group, I think, and then it just grew.
Oh my gosh, I was totally shocked. Yeah, I had posted a little something about it on Facebook, so we decided to pick a date, and we had probably, 25, 30 people
Yes.
show up. It was pretty amazing.
One thing it's taught me is what the need is more. We started out, we had a lot of scarves, like maybe too many scarves.
And we were told as we were donating them, this is great, but if someone could make those things that really cover their face and keep them warm, or they really want fingerless gloves. So that's kind of what we're learning how to do now. We all help each other, and the people who are more advanced help those of us who are newer. For me, there's a movement called craftivism that I find really interesting and very inspiring. There's some pretty well-known craftivists out there. You can find them on Instagram, and some of it's very politically motivated, some of it is more local type helping things, and so I love being at least my own little tiny part of that.
I think that when you see something frequently within your community, it can become like a background thing. And so for me, it's a way to keep in my mind that I need to be aware of them and that they're human beings like we are, with needs and hopes and dreams and that sort of thing. And so by getting together with this group, it reminds me of that.
With limited wall space and a focus on curating thematic exhibitions, Amarillo Museum of Art couldn't possibly show every piece in its collection all at once. So where does it keep the hundreds and hundreds of artifacts it has adopted in more than 40 years? They're all stored in the museum vault, 2 rooms in the basement that aren't accessible to the general public. Curator of Art Alex Gregory took us for a private tour, though, where we saw works both familiar and decidedly not. Along the way, we learned more about how the museum acquired works from famed artists like Georgia O'Keeffe and Elaine de Kooning, and got a peek at one of the most unusual works in the collection.
And so this is the primary vault for the permanent collection, and the idea being that the conditions of the basement being underground are very stable. So we have consistent humidity and temperatures to keep the artworks safe.
What's the safe temperature? Or
ideally, you're at 70 degrees, plus or minus 3 degrees, and then 50% humidity, plus or minus 5%. We have 1,800 objects, more or less, in the collection, and so this vault houses the majority of the works, because some of the works on paper can be in flat files, and of course you see we have a system of racks that you can hang relatively small things on, but we do have another vault that has higher ceilings and a little bit larger pieces can be stored in there. So yeah.
So this stuff dates back to when the museum opened?
Yeah, 72. They opened in 72 as a non-collecting art center. I think the long-term goal for them was collections, because they built in these 2 spaces for housing objects. But then right away, people started giving things to the museum and making purchases, and then artists after exhibitions would want to donate back to the collection. And so that's the bulk of what we have in the museum's collection.
All right. Well, show me some of the highlights.
Okay. 2 of the highlights, these 2 portraits, one of Lee Bivens and one of Betty Bivens, were painted by Elaine de Kooning. And Elaine came to town several times with Dord Fitz, who was a local art dealer, art teacher. And he went to New York, and he would find these artists that were, contemporary artists of their time. And bring them to Amarillo, and so they would conduct workshops and do things like that. And so while Elaine was here, she painted these 2 portraits. We have several other Elaine de Kooning works in the collection, which are always surprising to other curators because you wouldn't expect this kind of New York abstract expressionist school to have found its way into Amarillo.
Yeah.
So Elaine was the wife of Willem de Kooning, who was one of the more prominent Abex guys running around with Jackson Pollock and others. And so she had always been, in that sense, a little bit marginalized, being a woman, not getting the same amount of credibility. But at any rate, she was a fabulous painter and portrait painter, and she was actually chosen by John F. Kennedy to do his official portrait for the National Portrait Gallery. And so we have this small study that was courtesy of one of the collectors, a small study of JFK, and this actually went to an exhibition at the National Portrait Gallery. I think it's interesting that the way that she painted Lee is a completely different way than she painted Betty. And so there's that, and I like the contrast of that. You know, this is very soft, and the skin tones are very well rendered, and you know, here you can basically count every brushstroke. You know, it's just carved in really quickly. Where this, you know, she spent quite a bit of time just getting that whole portrait. I'd say these are probably the 2 that were, you know, most loaning to other museums or most known about, primarily because Georgia O'Keeffe was in the region on a couple of occasions. First taught at Amarillo High, went back and got some more education and came back as West Texas State Normal School at the time, faculty, between 1916 and 18. And so these pieces were purchased from Georgia before she passed away. And so these, we know she kept with her. She didn't sell them, she didn't exhibit them, but they were very kind of dear to her. She had them at the end of her life. And we were fortunate enough to raise the money to go out and select from what she had done during her period in Texas. And these 2 were chosen. And so this is apparently the steam train as it comes into Canyon, Texas. And a scholar visited what would have been her studio or office in what's now Old Main, and just looking out that same window, the tracks of course haven't changed, and so he was just blown away by the fact that the tracks are still there and that he felt like that was painted at that spot.
Yeah.
The same with this home. This is called Roof with Snow. It was done, the house is the house across the street from the one that she was renting in Canyon. And so that same scholar went and located that house, located family photos of the house from the people that owned the house across the street, and did a lot of research. And it snowed twice that winter, and so he kind of pinned it down to a particular time. Like this was done at this time.
I saw that and had to stop, and then it gets even weirder.
Yeah, it does. And it's interesting because the title Reliquarium. This whole idea of a reliquary and saving these objects that are special or just a little bit at the tip of some saint's fabric or just something significant. And so what he did is he went around and kind of got pop culture icon stuff. So you have a little snip from Andy Warhol's film, The Empire, 1964, a piece of the Berlin Wall, oil from the Exxon Valdez spill. So just these, strange little findings that he would just place on these prints.
Yeah. Larry Hagman's wristband from his liver transplant.
Yeah.
Madonna's panties
from
the early 80s in New York. A fragment of Hitler's house.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
So an incredible print.
So there's other little bizarre things like this in the vault as well?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Well, I might be home tomorrow. I might not be there at all. But Lord, I'm trying, Lord, I'm trying to be home. Today I realize that you were right. You said you won't miss me till I'm gone. And the hardest time out on this road is a night, is a night, is a night. Well, I'll be singing tonight, but I won't feel alright, 'cause I'll be losing tonight without your love. Yesterday I needed you. It was the same the day before. And I cannot take my mind off loving you, loving you, loving you. Well, I'll be singing tonight, but I won't feel alright, 'cause I'll be losing tonight without your love. Well, I'll be singing